This is Jenny Kunkel. In this video, we're going to go ahead and install Docker Desktop for Windows and enable the Windows subsystem for Linux. These are both requirements for running Docker on a Windows computer. To begin our installation of Docker Desktop, we need to open a browser and navigate to docker.com/products/personal. We can take a look at the stipulation for using Docker Personal, and that is if our commercial use of Docker Desktop at a company of more than 250 employees or more than 10 million in annual revenue requires a paid subscription, we cannot use this version. We must use a paid subscription. In our case, we are using this for educational purposes, so this does not apply. I can go ahead and sign up for a new account using the sign up for free, or there is an option under the sign in. We're going to use the sign in option. I'm going to open this in a new tab. Down below, we have the sign up option. This is where you can go ahead and sign up using your Rock Valley College email account for a Docker account. In my case, I already have a Docker account, so I'm going to go ahead and log into my account. Once you either create a new account or you log into your account, you're going to end up on the app.docker.com page. We have the ability to launch Docker Desktop if it was installed from here. We also have Docker Hub that we can use to explore different images. We have other capabilities that we can do from this page. Right now, we're just going to go ahead and close it. We want to stay logged in though. We're going to go back and we're going to click on the Get Started button. From the Get Started page, we can learn how to install Docker. We're going to open this in a new tab. Once we navigate to the new tab, we want to expand underneath the Docker Desktop, the Setup, underneath the Setup, the Install, and then pick our Windows as the operating system. Scrolling down just a little bit, we can see what the system requirements are. The first requirement is that it is using a Windows 10 or a Windows 11 operating system running 64-bit version of that operating system using either the Enterprise, Pro, or Education version with a 22H2 version associated or a 23H2 version. And then it also gives the build number that's associated. If you have a home edition, that also is going to work as well. To determine what version of the operating system you have, you can go to Settings, get into the System, scroll down, look at the About, and it should give you information to tell you that you are running a 64-bit operating system under the system type. Then it should give you your Windows specifications. This is going to show Windows 11 Home Edition for myself. It also has version 25H2, which is above the 23H2. It also is showing the build number, which is 26200, which is above that 22631. So for that particular requirement, I am all set. We also have another requirement that our computer must have 4 gigabytes of system RAM, and we need to be able to enable hardware visualization in BIOS. We're not going to necessarily worry too much about the hardware visualization in BIOS. If our operating system is to the right level, we should be okay for that. We do want to turn on WSL2. WSL2 is the Windows subsystem for Linux 2. We can refer to the Microsoft documentation. We're going to open that in a new tab. If we were above that particular version and build, we can go ahead and use the install WSL command. If we were not, we can still install WSL2, but we have to go through a set of manual installation steps. Let's quickly look at those manual installation steps so we know what's going to happen. It's going to enable the Windows subsystem for Linux. It's going to check requirements for running WSL2. It's going to enable the virtual machine feature. download the Linux kernel update package. Go ahead and set WSL2 as your version. Then install the Linux distribution of choice. If you're doing it manually, you can go ahead and select one. By default, I believe it's going to install Ubuntu, which is what we want. And then you can go ahead and set up your Unix user account and password. We're going to close out of here. We're going to copy the WSL install. We may have several reboots that we're going to need to go through to get this totally installed. We're going to open up a PowerShell window. We go ahead and start typing in PowerShell. We should see the Windows PowerShell. We want to run this as an administrator. So right click, it's going to bring up a user account control window. This is going to say, do you want to allow this app to make changes to your device? It's going to show that this app is Windows PowerShell and the verified publisher is Microsoft Windows. Go ahead and say yes. It's going to then bring up our dialog. We can do a Control V to paste in our command and go ahead and hit enter. And that's going to start enabling some of those features. Now our changes are not going to be effective until the system is rebooted. Before we kick off our first reboot, let's go ahead and go back and pick our version of Docker Desktop that we want to download the installer for. In my case, I have an Intel chip, so I'm going to pick the Docker Desktop for Windows version x86_64. If you have an ARM, you're going to want to try to use this. We can also access the installation options if we're on the Getting Started page. If we just mouse over the Download Docker Desktop, you can do it from there as well. Once we have that installer totally downloaded, it takes a few minutes for that to occur. Right now it's still downloading. Now it has completed. I'm going to go ahead and do a restart after pausing the video. After the reboot, we can go ahead and look for turn Windows features on or off. We can see what was actually done. If we scroll down, depending on if you had Virtual Machine Platform installed, which I did not, it's going to turn Virtual Machine Platform on, but it's not necessarily going to do Windows Subsystem for Linux. One of the things that we need to do is to go back through that installation dialog one more time and run that command in order for it to complete all of the other necessary features. If for some reason you're showing that Windows Subsystem for Linux is complete and you were prompted for the username and password for the Ubuntu Unix account, then you're all set up. You can go ahead and fast forward to the point where we complete this. But I'm going to have to go through another iteration. Going to go ahead and launch PowerShell again. Running it as an administrator, it's going to bring up that same user account control. Do you want to allow this app to make changes to your device with Windows PowerShell, verified publisher, Microsoft Windows? I'm going to go ahead and say yes. Then I'm going to type in that command. It's WSL space -- install. Hit enter. Now we can see that it's downloading Ubuntu. At this point, it's telling me to create a default Unix user account. I'm just going to leave it at Jenny and go ahead and enter my password. It's going to ask me to retype it. Now I've gone ahead and set that. At this point, I can just go ahead and do an exit because right now I'm in my Linux account and I'm just going to do an exit to get out. At this point, if I do a WSL-L-V, should show me that I have Ubuntu. It's running and using version 2. So that is all good stuff. We have pretty much everything done. It didn't require us to reboot. If it does indicate to you that it needs to reboot again, then you can go through and do that reboot. We're going to go ahead and run the Docker desktop installer that we downloaded previously. Go ahead and launch that. It's going to bring up a user account control. Do you want to allow this app to make changes to your device? It's going to show that it's Docker Desktop Installer. The verified publisher is Docker Inc. Say yes, and it should kick off that process. Should see the installation dialog pop up. I'm going to leave the shortcut to the desktop. Say OK. It's going to unpack some files for us. And it's telling us we must restart our computer in order to get our installation complete. So I'm going to pause the video again and go ahead and restart. We're going to go ahead and launch Docker Desktop using the icon on the desktop. That's going to bring up the Docker subscription service agreement. We can go ahead and read through the subscription service agreement by clicking on that link. We also want to do the same with the Docker data processing agreement, the data privacy policy, and the Docker AI supplemental terms. Once we've read through all of those agreements and understand the terms, then we can go ahead and accept those terms. I've already gone ahead and read those terms, so I'm just going to accept those terms. The first time that we launch Docker Desktop, it's going to bring up a survey. We can go ahead and skip that survey by clicking on the skip link. We don't really need to fill in that information. Then it's going to go out and start our Docker engine. After we get the Docker engine started, we're going to want to sign into our Docker account. We need to have our account signed in order to pull any images from Docker Hub. We need that connection. We're going to go ahead and sign into our account. Once we click that sign in button, it's going to actually launch another window that's going to allow us to open Docker Desktop. Once we hit that Open Docker Desktop button, it's going to establish that connection. This is where we want to leave off for the next video, where we're going to walk through how to create the containers for this class.